Welcome back. You're watching or listening to The Death of Robert Freeman. If you need to catch up on parts 1 and 2, the link to the playlist will be in the description as well as in the cards. If you prefer reading over listening, you also now have the choice to experience all 3 parts of this story in written form. The link to this is also in the description. Keep in mind that this story takes place in the present day, roughly 15 years after season 3. And lastly, make sure to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss any installments of this story or future content on this channel. So without further ado, The Death of Robert Freeman, Part 3. It was Wednesday afternoon and Huey had 2 questions for Riley that wouldn't leave his mind as they pulled into the parking garage of their apartment building. Did he get sexually assaulted in prison since the last time they saw each other? And when and how did the Onslers attack him from the inside? While Jasmine was in the passenger seat asleep, Huey quickly glanced at the rearview mirror to see Riley tearing into some food Huey obligingly bought him from the drive-thru of Colonel's Fried Chicken. He had ordered his brother his beloved 2-piece with lots of hot sauce and all the fries they could give him. At that moment, Huey considered asking the questions he had in mind, but ultimately decided it'd be better to give his brother time to settle before having him relive traumatic memories. I guess I'll let him eat his poison in peace, Huey thought as he parked in their usual parking spot near the stairs leading to their apartment. As Huey unlocked the door to their dwelling, Riley was still devouring the few fries he had left from his chicken box, his facial expressions showing rejoice as he enjoyed his first non-prison meal after 8 long years. Jasmine, still half asleep with her eyes halfway closed, began walking toward her and Huey's bedroom. "I'm gonna leave you two to catch up while I shower and take a nap," Jasmine muttered in the middle of a yawn before walking past Huey and Riley. As she sluggishly dragged her feet, Riley continued to stare at her from behind, prompting Huey to glare angrily at his brother's thirstiness. "Damn," Riley uttered impulsively. "Baby done filled out nice in them." Before Riley could finish his sentence, Huey forcefully grabbed Riley by the collar and attempted to push Riley into the wall by the front door. But Riley quickly lifted his right foot and slammed the bottom into the wall to prevent being slammed into it. He then gripped Huey's hands and yanked them upward, releasing the tight grip on his collar. Huey was impressed with the strength Riley clearly gained while locked up, but he was still the kung fu master big brother he was since childhood. He threw a punch toward Riley's face only to stop midway. Riley reflexively placed his arms in front of his face in order to block his brother's bluff of a punch, but then, to Riley's alarm, Huey quickly stepped back and raised his right leg to hit Riley with a swift roundhouse kick to the left side. Riley fell on the floor and winced in pain. "I know you're my brother, but I won't tolerate any disrespect in my own home," Huey said while looking at Riley intensely on the ground. "I don't care who you are." "Damn, you're a real tender dick nigga about the little bitch, ain't you?" Riley said as he began to get up. "Watch it," Huey fired back while beginning to raise his fist again, causing Riley to flinch. "You and that goddamn kung fu," Riley said while looking to the side to avoid Huey's eye contact. "I forgot how fire you was at that shit, goddamn." He paused a bit before turning his head to face his brother, who he was now significantly bigger and stronger than. But after 8 years, he still was no match for Huey's combat prowess. "I ain't mean no disrespect, my nigga," he said. "You gotta remember, a nigga ain't got no pussy for like a third of my life, nigga. Nigga out here starving." That last statement stumped Huey, who wasn't even aware that his brother had even had sex, considering how cynical he always was toward women, especially Granddad's love interest that he'd bring home from time to time. "I understand," he replied, still staring intensely at Riley, waiting for him to say the wrong thing. "But don't let it happen again." Jasmine listened closely with her ear to the bedroom door for Huey's footsteps. She'd be highly embarrassed if he knew she was eavesdropping on him, defending her the way he did. It made her melt inside whenever Huey reminded her of how much he loved her in his subtle, sometimes cold ways. But that was the boy she fell in love with all those years ago. And in that moment, she felt the same butterflies in her stomach that she felt back then. "Where the rest of the money at?" she heard Riley say to Huey. "You'll get it when you're back on your feet," Huey calmly replied. Jasmine could hear that he was walking toward the kitchen as the sound of his footsteps were becoming more distant. "I done told you about thinking you my daddy, nigga," Riley fired back from seemingly the same spot by the apartment's front door. Jasmine couldn't help but to chuckle quietly. She had heard him say those exact words countless times when she listened to their arguments growing up. "Dad's been dead 15 years, Riley," Jasmine faintly heard Huey say from the kitchen. "This has nothing to do with him and everything to do with the fact that my secret hideout at Tom's house is the only reason that money wasn't seized. Plus, I was in charge of putting that money on your books the whole sentence, even after you told me to stop contacting you." "I ain't think you was really gonna stop," Riley said under his breath. "What?" Huey replied. "Nothing," Riley said, now speaking at his normal volume. "Well, how much I got left?" "Well, I put 20 on your books and you nearly ran through it," Huey started sarcastically. Protection ain't come free, nigga, Riley retorted. Well, you have exactly 261,202 left, which is still plenty, Huey finished. Well, I still got about 5 bands from that last dub you sent me, so make that 266. Silence filled the apartment after Riley said this. Even Jasmine was stunned. She remembered the first year of Riley's sentence when Huey was scolding him over the phone about spending his money recklessly. Now, 8 years later, he still had money left. Maybe Riley had learned some discipline after all. The sound of his footsteps were headed in the direction of Huey as Riley began. I've been meaning to ask you since you a smart nigga and all. What you think I should do with it? I was thinking maybe get a car cause a nigga do need to get around. I actually don't think that's a bad idea, Huey replied with a faint amount of surprise. The only problem is that it's not safe for you outside right now. At this point, Jasmine decided it was an appropriate time to stop eavesdropping and actually take a shower. It was good that Riley seemed to finally have his head on straight. Anything that made Huey happy was welcome because that was no easy task. As she walked into her closet to grab her favorite robe to wear, she heard her phone ring from on top of the bed. She walked back into her room to see that it was her mom calling. Hello? Jasmine answered. Jasmine! The pain and worry in Sarah's voice immediately transferred to Jasmine like a virus sickening the heart. After his first talk with his brother since getting out, Riley sat and quickly got comfortable on the living room couch. In front of it was a 55-inch flat smart TV, so it had various streaming apps. Some Riley was familiar with, but some that were unfamiliar. Like, what the fuck was Zeus? He turned his head to look all around his brother's sweet living space. A few years back, he remembered Huey telling him about putting a deposit down during a visitation. That mix of feeling proud and left out was hard to forget. He finally decided to click on YouTube since that felt familiar to him. But even that looked way different from how it looked when you went in. Like, who were the new rappers these days? He typed in Rap 2023 into the search bar. He couldn't believe his eyes when he saw the first thumbnail in the results. There was no mistake about it. Even though the rapper's name was said to be Chief Don with a song called Wild Story with over 100 million views, what Riley saw was a kid he knew named Don Terrius, the high school boy that used to walk Huey and Riley to the bus stop back home on 64th Street in Chicago. On Twitter, a few years back, he started going by Don, but he never really seemed like the rapping type. Everybody knew him as either a ruthless killer or their ruthless protector. Huey! Riley yelled to his brother who was still in the kitchen preparing a salad. Why you ain't tell me Don Terrius blew up? A bunch of guys from back home started blowing up since around the time Grandad died, Huey replied nonchalantly. I honestly didn't think it was news. It slipped my mind. Man, something telling me I need to go back, Huey, Riley said while staring at the thumbnail of Chief Don, who had blonde and black double-stranded dreadlocks that looked about the same length as his own. I want to go back home. After processing what Riley had just said, Huey paused the preparation of his salad before Jasmine burst out of the bedroom with her eyes wide open. Dad's in the hospital and the mom said it's not looking good and we have to go like right now, she said quickly with a voice full of panic. Slow down, Jasmine, Huey said. What's wrong with Tom? I don't know, Mom didn't say, Jasmine replied with the panic in her voice increasing. She just wants us all to be at the hospital as a family. Huey glanced at Riley, who was on the couch already looking at him with worry. Then Riley dropped his head in guilt. Huey and Riley struggled to keep up with Jasmine as they speed walked through the busy emergency department of Woodcrest Medical Center headed to the room Tom was in. Due to her panic, Jasmine accidentally opened the door of 2 random patients before Huey calmed her down and pointed her and Riley to the room the receptionist told them he'd be in. Upon finally entering, they were all immediately met with a clumsily rough hug by Sarah. I'm so glad you guys are here, Sarah exclaimed with a heavy flow of tears. And Riley, it's so good to see you, honey. It's good to see you too, Mrs. Dubois, Riley replied. Huey could see the same expression of guilt on his face that he displayed in the house. Mommy, what's wrong with Daddy? Jasmine said with a face full of tears that matched her mother's. Huey placed his arm around her and pulled her closer to console her while they awaited an answer. Riley, Tom said with glee that was a complete contrast from his wife and daughter. Come by the bed, son. This nigga's so gay, Riley thought as he walked past Sarah to Tom's bedside. Once he was there, Tom immediately pulled Riley in for an even more aggressive hug than Sarah gave them. I'm so glad you're home, Riley, Tom told him as he began to cry as well. Riley obligingly hugged him back. I'm glad to see you too, Mr. Dubois, Riley replied with the same guilty facial expression. What's going on with you though? Why are we here? Well, kids, Tom began, the doctor says that I tested positive for HIV. They tested Sarah too, but she was negative. Sarah and Jasmine immediately bursted back into tears. Huey glanced at Riley, who was standing over Tom with the same helpless expression he displayed when their granddad was carried out by the paramedics. Tom, have you been in contact with anybody in the Wunstler family recently? Huey asked over the sorrowful sounds of Jasmine and Sarah's weeping. Well, yeah, actually, Tom stammered as he replied. Huey and Riley glanced at each other, then back at Tom. About 2 weeks ago, Ed Jr. came by the house. I remember thinking, this is odd, but then I sat him down in the living room, and then he started telling me about how he was angry with me at first about how me defending Riley was the reason he got such a lenient sentence, to which I responded with a gentle reminder that there were several witnesses that corroborated that Riley was criminally groomed by Ed and Rummy, which resulted in grounds for self-defense. But then he cut me off to tell me that ever since his father, Ed Sr., passed away, he just wanted to change his life for the better and let bygones be bygones and, yeah. Why'd you ask? Did you ingest anything he gave you? Huey asked immediately. No, absolutely not, Tom replied sternly. I'm not a Did you make any physical contact with him? Huey asked, cutting him off. Tom gazed at the ceiling as he jogged his memory. Well, he invited me to a sus daddy party that was happening that weekend, but I declined. And then he shook my hand, said goodbye, and left. Kinda bizarre if you ask me. Why are you asking me all this, Huey? Wait, hold up, Riley interjected. Did you just say Ed Jr. invited you to a sus daddy party? Yeah, Tom replied. Apparently the two of them are really close. Thugnificent used to tell me about that sus daddy nigga and them freaky ass parties, but he said he never went to one, Riley said as he glanced back and forth at Tom and Huey. Gangstalicious told me he went to one, but he was sworn to secrecy or some shit, so he ain't tell me what be going on either. But one thing they both said was that nigga ain't nobody to fuck with. If he want you gone, he gonna get you gone and make it look like you got sick or something. Okay, can someone explain to me why we're talking about sus daddy right now? Jasmine suddenly asked impatiently. Huey ignored her as he responded to Riley. I remember when I was 10 and I was doing that black entertainment experiment where I only watched black programs. Yeah, I remember that stupid shit, Riley replied scornfully. Well, there was this one interview on a late night talk show with that label executive from Compton, Big Sugar, Huey continued. He basically admitted, on live TV, to murdering his artist with a needle that infected him with HIV. Tom, I think that's what Ed Wunstler Jr. might have done to you when he shook your hand. Tom paused and began to gaze at the ceiling once again. I do remember feeling something on my right palm afterward that felt like a splinter, but I didn't really think anything of it. Well, what now? Jasmine said with her face drenched in tears. Why aren't we talking about how to help Daddy? Oh, sweetheart, come here and give Daddy a hug, Tom replied in a calming voice. Jasmine quickly walked past everyone to her father's bedside and laid the top half of her body on his and wrapped him with her arms. Tom could smell the perfume he bought her as her tears soaked his left shoulder. HIV as it stands is an incurable disease, honey, but when has your old man ever let anything take me down? It happens all the time, Jasmine replied as she began to cry even harder. Tom looked at her for a bit, then turned his head away in embarrassment. I'm not sure why Ed Jr. waited all this time to get his revenge, but right now, we can assume that none of us are safe, Huey said, prompting everyone to turn their head toward him. Mr. Dubois, I'm testing all the treatment that was prescribed to you for poison before you take anything. The Wunslers are the most connected family in Woodcrest, so we have to assume that even doctors and pharmacists can be paid off. And Riley? They tried to poison me too, Riley interrupted. It was my first year in. After I spent all that money Huey put in my books, I couldn't buy no more commissary, but I ain't want to eat that nasty ass cafeteria food either, so I went hungry for like a week. It was this one CEO, a young white nigga. I guess he called himself being nice. Nigga snuck me a Subway sandwich when nobody was looking, and I ain't gonna lie, I was finna smash that shit, but luckily Lamilton fat ass was bunked up with me and slapped it out my hand. He said that counselor that was trying to kill him tried that same shit on him when we was in elementary. You sure did tell me Lamilton was locked up with you, Huey said. Yeah, I was worried about his crazy ass being my cellmate, Riley replied. But I can't lie, the nigga saved my life. Matter of fact, that was who made sure I was protected the whole time when I was in juvie. But anyway, yeah, he slapped the sandwich out my hand, but you know that crazy ass nigga ain't stopped there. The next day, we had found the CO by himself. Lamilton knocked the nigga out and got a needle he was hiding in his sock. He was finna put a jail tat on the nigga as a warning, but that would've took too long, so I came up with a better idea, cause I ain't want the Wunslers coming after me no more. I should've known they was gonna come after Tom, but I ain't even think about that. Riley paused and lowered his head in guilt again. It's okay, son, really, Tom said sympathetically. Well, Riley, what was your idea? Huey asked. When the CO woke up, I told him that I knew he was working for the Wunslers and that the sandwich he gave me had poison in it. I threatened to go to the warden if he didn't take a picture of me pretending to eat it in my cell to send to the Wunslers so they think I'm dead. They ain't came after me since, but I bet they got word a few weeks ago that I was alive and getting out, so they went after Tom. The city of Woodcrest was turning a shade of navy blue as the end of the day was approaching. "Huey, let me get one of them guns in your kitchen," Riley said from the backseat of Huey's car as the three of them headed to the pharmacy to pick up Tom's treatment. "I'ma need protection for whenever I roll solo, you know what I'm saying?" Huey, surprised, turned to the front passenger seat to look at Jasmine, who immediately glanced back. "You were just back there praying and now you're asking about guns?" Huey snarkily replied. "Nigga, yeah. I give thanks to Allah 5 times a day for blessing me with life in abundance, oh hating ass, atheist ass nigga." Huey glanced at the rearview mirror to see Riley's smug face after saying this. "How do you even know where my guns are?" he asked. "Nigga, you can't hide shit in that little ass apartment like you did at Grandad and Tom's house," Riley replied. "Plus, I've been locked up 8 years. Can't nobody hide shit better than me." "Fair enough," Huey said. "But Riley, you are a felon, so no." "So what a nigga supposed to do?" Riley retorted. "I supposed to just lay around with y'all niggas in that little ass apartment until Ed Jr. suddenly disappear like magic? Nah, nigga, I gotta get around some bitches. I ain't finna lock myself up when the state done already did that for me." "A high-rise apartment hardly equates to a prison cell, Riley," Huey said in a patronizing tone, to which Riley responded by kissing his teeth. Huey then continued. "How about we invite some old friends over or something after I get off work on Friday?" "Fuck that, nigga. Let's hit the strip club down." "No," Huey quickly interrupted. "What are we gonna do to help Daddy?" Jasmine suddenly blurted emotionally. "I mean, it ain't a sore throat, bitch. It's HIV," Riley replied while looking out his window. "I told you to watch your mouth, Riley," Huey said with a much louder voice than his normal monotone. He then paused and continued to address Jasmine. "Anyway, we're getting the treatment that was prescribed to him, and I'm testing it as soon as we get home." "Okay," Jasmine replied softly as Huey placed his hand on her thigh. "Riding in the car with you is more depressing than prison. God damn," Riley said. "You ain't got no music, nigga?" "You can find a lot of wisdom in silence, Riley," Huey replied. "Nigga, I read like 15 books inside. I don't need no more wisdom right now," Riley said. "Jasmine, let me see your phone. I'm trying to hear my boy Don Terry's new song." "Here, Riley, I put it on YouTube for you. Search for whatever you want," Jasmine said with an attitude before she swiftly handed Riley her phone. "I bet," Riley said before searching and pressing play on Chief Don, Wild Story. "It's done!" "Yeah. Done. I got them taking shots like insulin, cause niggas think it's sweet. A lot of oppas, they be talking dirty. Chopper did it sweet. I got a new nigga on 63rd that's dying every week, and if they rush him to the hospital, he dying in his sleep. My niggas sliding every week, but we ain't trying to be discreet. We riding by in the black Jeep, you might get fly with a BD. Ain't no picking and choosing up on this side, what it's gon' be. And if you coming in 64 trying to ride, don't get cold feet. Little bitch is done, you come at me wrong, shooting at your mom. You heard my song, but this ain't just no song. Kill niggas for fun. I play with drums, but these ain't music drums. Bitch, these chopper drums. Bitch, I'm this shit, they call me number 2, but bitch, I'm not the one. "I'm used to violent rap songs, but that was worse than usual," Huey remarked after the song ended. "That's that same kid that used to walk us to the bus stop?" "Yeah, Nick, you need to keep up with social media," Riley replied. "Don started tweeting about his bodies a few years before I went in. He been a known killer for a minute now. I fuck with the nigga music though, he hard." "Well, I can't say I'm a fan," Huey said calmly. "Well, Huey, you ain't gotta announce being a hating ass nigga, but we already know you a hating ass nigga." After Riley said this, Jasmine's phone received a Twitch notification that read, "John Capri is live. Blue Hunted is here. Hurry up, ASAP." "John Capri? Oh yeah, he doing that prison stream. He got Blue Hunted goofy ass in there too." Riley reacted. "We be watching this shit in the pen where we can get good service. Jasmine, you be watching that nigga shit too?" Jasmine chuckled softly, happy to have something else to think about. "Yeah, sometimes. He's pretty funny." She looked to the left at Huey, whose face was blank and salty. "Well, it's the 30th pill and still no signs of poison, so I guess the HIV was the only get back," Huey said to Jasmine in their bedroom as he put his turkey baster back in his testing kit. "I better take this medicine over to Tom now." As Huey walked toward the front door of his apartment, he glanced at Riley, who was asleep on his couch while John Capri's stream mirrored to the television. Huey stared at the TV as the rapper turned reality star, Blue Hunted, was freestyling with the inmate actors surrounding him. "It's Blue Hunted, yeah, ooh, I fuck my bitches some Capris, now I'm with John Capri. My life a movie starring me, I can't sing, but I be fucking hoes that be singing R&B. Make them sing back, I give her good dick and she don't give me bad feedback. She be telling me she need that, like a crackhead gon' need crack. Fake number her keypad, cause my bitch don't need to see that." In the middle of Blue Hunted rapping, Huey walked out of the apartment. locked the door, and thought to himself, that's still the same damn Riley. It was around 9 p.m. and Woodcrest was now pitch black while Ed Wunsler and Sus Daddy stood in the memorial room of the Wunsler mansion. I can't help but wonder if that boy wouldn't have been such an idiot if I wasn't always out of town, Ed remarked solemnly as he stared at the myriad of his son's pictures along with his favorite belongings, which included firearms and disengaged explosives. Nonetheless, he didn't deserve what happened to him. Those people could be so heinous. Those people? Sus Daddy replied. What you mean by that, Daddy? Sus, Ed began. I told you before, you can refer to me as Ed or Mr. Wunsler. The choice is yours, but I'd like for you to stop calling me your daddy. I'm sorry, Dad. Oop, there I go again, Sus said with a chuckle. But what did you mean by that? I'm talking about the Freeman boys, Ed said. My father told me about when they moved into town around 15 years ago. They've been a pain in the ass ever since, especially that young one. His tone of voice suddenly became deep and ominous. Riley. It sounds like you need help with another inconvenience. That's exactly right, Ed said as he turned his head away from the memorial towards us. This fucker thinks he can murder my boy in cold blood. He clenched his fist as he turned toward his father, Ed Sr.'s memorial, which was to the right of his son's. He even had the audacity to trick us when he began his sentence. I thought the asshole was dead up until a few weeks ago. I'm gonna kill that fucker if it's the last thing I do. But if you got some money for me, I'll take that, Sus Daddy replied. If you would like part 4 to this story, comment part 4. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any new content on this channel. Peace out, nigga.